Yes, good. Today we got endocrine system. 5 days off. I went on a research trip, so I wasn't able to. But now I low-key forgot everything I learned before, so it's low-key cooked. But I could low-key just, low-key. I could low-key just rewatch the videos from before and probably get a better understanding. So that's kind of a good idea. But during the thing, it was just a lot of walking. So during the walks, I would just run through my mind like, if I was a pathogen, how would I enter the body? What would stop me from spreading? Or if I was an oxygen atom, how would I be traveling around the body? Or a piece of food, etc. like that. And honestly, it really helped because I understood the gaps in my knowledge and it just made me go forward. But anyways, now we're going to go on the endocrine system. Today I was actually not going to do anything. This is for tomorrow, but we finished early, so we got home earlier today rather than late. So that's clutch. Anyways, I'm just yapping. There's between neurons and hormones. So both are used as communication systems within the body. However, neurons are more fast. Hormones are much slower. Neurons travel through electrical impulse and like some chemical neurotransmitters, while hormones travel through the circulatory system. That makes hormones slower and neurons faster. Now that also leads to neurons having a shorter lifetime of effect, like their effects last shorter, while hormones last longer because they take a long time to travel and they're just there for a minute. Now what else is there? Neurons are more specific in their effects. They'll affect a target thing, while hormones just affect anything that has the circulatory system connected to it. Is that the three? Rapidly, chemical messengers. Yeah, those we can talk about. So what is the range and breadth of the endocrine system compared to the nervous? So the range is that it's much farther because it's able to go to anywhere with blood circulation, and the breadth of it is also much larger because it can just go anywhere. Nervous system is just it's more localized and it's more faster, so it's like not crazy range. 4 types of signaling. Think of examples. So there's endocrine signaling, so that's like inside the body, like thyroid within, like secreting it through the glands. Then there's also exocrine, which is through ducts, which is like outside of the body, like sweat glands or digestive stuff. I think because that's like outside, right? Then there's also paracrine, which is like very localized thing, and there's autocrine. Autocrine is when you release something and then you activate yourself, basically. I think. Let me just look through the slides. Exocrine through ducts. Autocrine bind to receptors on the same cell, so cell signaling, and then paracrine target is nearby, so like short range. So there's 3 types of hormones. There's peptide hormones, amino acid derivative hormones, or amino acid derived hormones, which is mainly just tyrosine, and then there's steroids. So now breaking down into each type of hormone, what are peptide hormones made of? They're made of peptides, made of proteins. Oh, where are they made? They're made in the rough endoplasmic reticulum because they have ribosomes. So do they go into the cell? No, they cannot go into the cell because these are hydrophilic. They're not hydrophobic, so they can't go through the cell. Like, because the cell has the hydrophobic interior, it's not going to go through there. That's why not. So what soluble are they? Wait, what do I mean by that? Like, they're hydrophilic. They're water soluble. So they can't go through the membrane because there's a hydrophobic portion. So 4 types of secondary messengers. What do they allow? So something I feel like I should mention is that these will bind to receptors. Oh, these are just steps to a secondary thing. There's 4 types of secondary messengers, each of them allowing, what do they allow? They just allow various effects from they allow signals from the outside of the cell to be transferred throughout the inside. Okay, anyways. So first there's Ig3, there's calcium, there's DARP, no, not DARP, DAG, and CAMP. That was rough. Okay, so the 4 types are IgA, CAMP, DAP, like DAP, or no, DAG, like DAG. So there's, okay, wait, so there's ID3, there's CAMP, there's calcium, and then there's DAG, DAG. So yeah, they simply just allow external things to come inside, like external messages to come inside. So what are the steps of the secondary messengers? What is a special receptor? So first of all, the peptide hormone will bind to a receptor on the cell membrane, because it can't go through. So I feel like today is Sunday, but it'll bind to this receptor, and this is called the G receptor. Now that G receptor is gonna send out secondary messengers, either IgA, CAMP, TAG, or calcium. Now those are gonna release, and then those are gonna do whatever they need to do inside the cell. So what is the difference between CAMP and IP3 pathway? Let me just make sure I got all these steps down. So binds to the receptor, activates G protein. Oh, it's called G protein. Activates effector, secondary messenger produced. So what does each one do specifically? So CAMP, what does IP3 do, Dag? Okay, so what's going to happen is CAMP is going to bind to this G protein, right? Now that G protein is then going to cause there's a GTP, it's going to get a GTP, wait, what? Okay, so activate the G protein. Okay, so when it activates, it's going to call on a GTP to activate it. Then it's going to go to adenyl cyclase. It's going to convert ATP into CAMP. And then boom, that's the secondary messenger, right? So let's run through that one more time. So CAMP is like the first one. It's like AMP. It sounds like ATP. So just know that it's going to go from ATP. So how does this work? Well, first of all, the G protein is going to get the G receptor. G protein will receive the protein peptide hormone, right? It's going to activate. It's going to get like some GTP or something, right? So the G protein is activated, and it's just going to go to adenyl cyclase or whatever, and then that thing is going to turn on, and it's going to activate it's going to turn ATP into CAMP, and boom, we got the secondary messenger. Now IP3 is kind of different. What IP3 is going to do is that it's going to bind to the ligand, so it's the same thing. Then I'm okay confused. Holy shit. Okay, so ligand bonds to the G protein, whatever thing, right? Okay, wait, what's the difference in the name from this? Okay, there's phospholipase C and adenyl cyclase. So cyclase, I'll just think like cyclase, like ace, like it's like the thing. But then the other one is lipase, and lipase sounds like ligase, or it sounds like lipase. So lipase is breaking down, and here we're breaking down because PIP. So someone got PIP2 somehow. I don't know how. So ligand binds the G protein coupled receptor, activates the G protein. G protein activates phospholipase C. Phospholipase C cuts PIP2 into two separate molecules, DAG and IP3. That makes sense, sort of. DAG and IP3. So now what? Where does the PIP2 come from? I would assume that the phospholipase phospholipase C cuts PIP2 into two separate molecules. Okay, it's probably not that deep. It'll get DAG and IP3 from PIP2. So that's kind of the intermediate. Phospholipase, lipase, it breaks down. So what does IP3 do and what does DAG do? So IP3 is responsible for going to the endoplasmic reticulum and releasing calcium. from that endoplasmic reticulum. Indeed it is. Calcium is released out of the endoplasmic reticulum and into the cytoplasm. Calcium binds to various proteins and activates them. Now okay, wait, so also what does CAMP do? CAMP activates a protein and it causes it to get phosphorylated. And that's what DAG does as well. DAG will activate protein and it'll trigger cellular response by phosphorylating other things. Okay. So what is the difference between peptide hormones and growth factors? Growth factors are not considered hormones. That's the main difference. Now, the reason they're considered similar is that they both use this cell receptor way. Like, they don't go into the cell, they're just binding to the outside on the membrane. So what are steroid hormones made in? These are made in smooth endoplasmic reticulum because these are not proteins. What's the key difference between steroid and peptide hormones? Steroid hormones are hydrophobic. That means they can go to the cell without having to stay outside. So they can go to the hydrophobic region of the phospholipid bilayer, go into the cell, and then they could do their effects inside. Peptide hormones, they can't do that. They have to bind to the outside. So peptide hormones need to have a receptor. Steroid hormones, they do not need a receptor. What pathway do steroid hormones undergo? What does that mean? What pathway do steroid hormones undergo? Oh, also protein molecules. Okay, growth factors are protein molecules synthesized in the rough endoplasmic reticulum, but they're not hormones. Interesting. So steroid hormones do direct stimulation, so they enter the cell and they're like, yeah, what's up? And then we're going to activate them. Then they're going to form the hormone receptor complex, and then it's going to bind to DNA and cause effects. So probably at the activated region or whatever, if that's what it's called. So what are amino acid derivative? Okay, so they're made of this one amino acid called like tyrosine derivative hormones. So now these can be broken down into two. Hold on. They can be broken down into two. What are amino acid derivative hormones made of tyrosine? What is the difference between thyroid hormones and cholecalcilamines? Two examples of each. So thyroid hormones, these are chill. They're hydrophobic, so they just go through the cell membrane and they chill inside. So they're able to do whatever the steroid hormone does. Catecholamines, these are like not good. They act like peptide hormones, so they can only bind to the receptors on the outside and then they do their work. So two examples of each of catecholamines, norepinephrine and epinephrine, and thyroid hormones. Those are like parathyroid, I want to say, calcitonin or TSH. I'm not too sure. Oh, T3 and T4. Holy, that was not good. But yeah, catecholamines, epinephrine and norepinephrine. Okay. How does the body maintain homeostasis? Through feedback loops. What's the two types of feedback loops? There's positive and negative. So positive is when you're producing something and then that production of something will cause more to be released and then you're going to just keep on going. Usually these will have an end result. An example is when a baby drinks milk from the mom, that the process of it causes more hormone to be released by the mom and causes more milk to be left, ejected, and then it'll stop when the baby's full. Negative is yo, you got too much, and then it's yo, we got too much, you gotta chill. So it's kind of like insulin, in that you're digesting food, then you're making more and more glycogen. You have too much glycogen, the body's gonna be like, yo, chill, we don't need that much glycogen. It's gonna be yeah, get that shit out of here. I think. I'm not sure if that's a good example. Okay, what are the types of hormones this is so cooked. So I want to say that the type of hormone the hypothalamus produces peptide hormones. Yeah. Yeah, okay, wait, so it's like the glucose example is what was used in the negative feedback. So the hypothalamus, where is it talking about? What kind of things? I want to say it's peptide, but anyways, what process does it serve in the body? It connects the endocrine system to the nervous system. So it can signal to the pituitary or whatever that, like, yo, we need this hormone, yo, we need that hormone. It's like the boss. I want to say it's peptide hormones, but I'm not too sure. Actually, wait, there's a... Yeah, well, that's not working. Oh, that's not optimal. Okay, so what is the infundibulum? Holy mother, bro. Infundibulum. That is also called the pituitary shaft. That's just what connects. That's the physical connection from the pituitary. How do you even see that shit, bro? Pituitary gland to the hypothalamus. Okay. So now, difference in connecting between the hypothalamus and the pituitary, anterior and posterior. So the anterior is connected via veins, capillaries, blood veins, which is also called the hypophyseal portal. Then there's the posterior, which is connected via neurons. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy, bro. Isn't that so crazy, bro? Okay, so two hormones made by the hypothalamus: oxytocin and prolactin. That was probably wrong. It's oxytocin for sure, but I feel like it could be prolactin, bro. Like, that's low-key just a guess there, but yeah, it's not prolactin, bro. Holy, bro, I'm cooked, bro. How am I supposed to know all this, bro? Okay, let me try that again. It's oxytocin for sure, and also vasopressin, aka antidiuretic hormone, aka the opposite of diuretic hormone, aka what makes you want to pee less. Okay, so now what are the other types of hormones that the hypothalamus releases? There are all these different types of hormones. So there's two different types of hormones. You could say there's tropic and non-tropic. So tropic means non-direct, right? Maybe it's not time to talk about that. Yeah. Okay, I got into that a bit too early. Okay, so there's GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. I think. Yes, I was right. So what does this stimulate? This stimulates... Okay, so the main thing about hypothalamus is that this will release hormones that will tell the pituitary to release more. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I feel like I'm pronouncing pituitary. I don't know. But it'll tell the pituitary to release different things. So GnRH, also known as gonadotropin releasing hormone, will cause the gonads to release hormones. So yeah, it'll tell things to release things related to the gonads. So that's follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Now there's CRH, which is probably like cortisol releasing hormone. Corticotropin, whoa, that was not good. That will cause the thing to release ACTH, which is adrenocortical something hormone. I just made that up. That's not right. Then there's TRH, which is thyroid release. Nope. Thyrotropin releasing hormone, which stimulates TSH to be released. So there's a step ahead of this, bro. There's two steps to this, bro. So it's like the first of all steps. So so gonadotropin releasing hormone will it'll go to the pituitary, tell the pituitary to release FSH and LH, and then that'll go to the gonads, and then that'll do the effect. CRH is the freaking corticotropin releasing hormone. That'll tell the pituitary to release ACTH, which is, I don't even know what it's called. ACTH. I want to say like adrenal cortical, because it's going to go to adrenal cortex, I think. So it's like something like that. Then there's GHRH, which is, there's TRH, which is going to tell the pituitary to release TSH, with the TSH is going to go to the thyroid and stimulate the thyroid to make T3 and T4. That is so annoying, bro. And then there's GHRH, which is going to release growth hormone, uh, but it's called the growth hormone releasing hormone. What the growth hormone releasing hormone? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay, what is the hypophyseal portal? That is basically the venous portion of the anterior pituitary that connects it. Bro, what? Okay, wait, before we move on, there's somatostatin and dopamine. Dopamine inhibits the prolactin. So now that makes me question, if a woman gives birth, they have the baby they need to feed, and prolactin is what stimulates the mammary glands to make milk. So if you have dopamine and you inhibit prolactin, then you don't got no milk. So then, do you have to just be miserable all the time? Maybe that was just the dumbest question ever, but that had me thinking a little bit. Anyways, somatostatin, that I think that's the one that makes you feel like full or something. Is it? So okay, there's two different effects. So somatostatin also released by the pancreas. That makes you feel full. That inhibits glucagon and insulin. But somatostatin in the pituitary or the hypothalamus, that is responsible for preventing GH and TSH, growth hormone. Okay, so it's just inhibiting. Okay, wait, I'll be back.